the cost of living, in the United States, no matter what demographic you sit in, it's expensive.
Why do you think that they haven't introduced these type of courses in schools? Is it because they don't want people to be educated so they can continue to control the situation?
The rich have gotten way richer and the poor have gotten a lot poorer. There's a huge lack of education just in this country in general, but there's an even bigger one when it comes to just learning about finance.
Please remain seated.
Welcome everybody to the Rodriguez Project here at Mastermynd Media. Hugh Meyer is at the table today. What's up, my man? It's been a minute.
Yes, it has. Long time no see. Great to see you.
Yes.
Great to catch up here.
Absolutely. And I know we caught up a little bit, on the way up, but yeah, we want to save the majority for the podcast because I see you doing amazing things. I'm getting your newsletters. I'm watching everything at Highline Wealth Partners. And so let's just start right now, what's going on in the world today? Like, what are you seeing? I know we're post-COVID, and that's we met right before COVID, so it was an interesting period of time, and now where are we in the world of finance?
Great question. Just like as we were joking off camera, I just want to make sure this is for informational purposes only, not investment advice. The opinions that I'm going to express today are my own and not that of Highline Wealth Partners.
Or the Rodriguez Project.
Or the Rodriguez Project.
Or Jaima Official,
Yes.
who's producing for us.
Thank you for that.
So where are we today? So there, as I always, you and I, we go way back now. So you know quite a bit about me and kind of how I look at the world of finance, but it's definitely changed quite a bit. There's two worlds, right? There's the pre-COVID world we were living in, and now there's the post-COVID world. What does that mean? Well, when COVID hit, the U.S. government decided to print, $7 to $8 trillion. At the time, we thought the economy of the U.S. and the economy of the world was going into the abyss because of what happened with COVID. Situation completely unique, disastrous, terrible for a lot of people. And the government, had decided to print its way out, so to speak, and start with, numerous small business programs. Any way they could basically support the economy, they did it. And at the time, everybody thought this was great opportunity. We saw a lot of different, kind of investments just take off, whether it was digital assets, venture capital, anything you could essentially throw money at. It did quite well. But what was not realized at the time was, what's going to be the ramifications of, the U.S. government and the Federal Reserve printing all this money? What's it going to do to assets? What's it going to do to people, right?
Yeah.
Because now we're seeing the backside of all this, right? Now you go to the gas pump, gas is, here in California, it's, $7, $6. It's crippling. It pisses you off.
Yeah.
Even Jimmy Butler was caught on IG the other day pumping his gas and saying, "This is crazy, man." Granted, he has a little more money than we do, but he's making a point that the cost of living, in the United States, no matter what demographic you sit in, it's expensive, especially when you live in a coastal city like LA. And that's where we're seeing kind of the backside of what the government did to basically support and get out of COVID, which is, we're now seeing the costs of everything going up. We're now seeing that this wealth divide, which is awful, has gotten even worse in this country now, where the rich have gotten way richer and the poor have gotten a lot poorer. And now you're kind of seeing the repercussions of this. Now you're seeing labor strikes. You're seeing the power going into the people demanding we need more to live. So there's a lot going on. There's the investment trajectory, if you will, for people has changed. People's living, just how they're living has changed. And people are pissed off.
Yeah. Are you finding that investors, because you guys represent a lot of different portfolios, right, and control of those? So are you seeing that people are keep holding on to their money and being more strategic about things, or taking bigger risks? Like, what does that look like?
I think it just depends on where you sit. I think the business itself has to change. And I mentioned this to you off camera that I think investing going forward for individuals and families is tremendously different than it was pre-COVID. It's just we were living in an environment where the cost of money continued to go down. And we had to go reach for risk to make money, to live or to build wealth. And now, because of what the Federal Reserve has done, and it's not just here in the U.S., it's everywhere. It's China, it's Japan, it's Europe. Now we're dealing with what are the repercussions of what steps all these governments took to basically sustain themselves during COVID.
Yeah.
So now it's changed the game, and most people don't understand what that means. And that's kind of what I've been spending a lot of time with, is educating. I think
that's huge.
There's a huge lack of education just in this country in general, but there's an even bigger one when it comes to just learning about finance.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I've been spending a lot of time with people is, just teaching them about basic finance and saving. And, kids should be learning about this in elementary and minimum at a high school level. It's got to start there. But I start seeing a lot of questions on social media, just really basic things, and I love to reach out and help. But it's also scary to think about how uneducated Americans are when it comes to just building and preserving wealth.
Yeah. I feel like that's something that I never had either. And then as you start something and you're forced to learn as you go. And luckily, that's my favorite thing about the internet, is that the information is there for the taking now. However, of course, it's like with mass information comes a lot of misinformation as well. So finding people like yourself that can push through the noise and really help people is just really incredible. Why do you think that they haven't introduced these type of courses in schools? Is it because they don't want people to be educated so they can continue to control the situation?
Wow, that's a good question. I want to say I hope that's not the case. I just think it's one of these subject matters that just has not ever been hammered home for the youth. It just I don't know why. Maybe the school systems and the education systems assume that it's being done at home.
Yeah.
I hope that's the case. I mean, I know people that do that, but learning from educators, especially those who actually come from a place of business, is important. But just learning these essential skills to start, because one of the things that I spend a lot of time on is retirement planning, and majority of people in this country still go to work at a company, get a W-2. Have a 401k, even though that number is kind of decreasing a little bit because people realize they'd rather, be an entrepreneur, run their own business, and have the power.
Yeah.
But that's not most people. So most people, they go into a company, their HR says, hey, welcome to the company. You can sign up for your 401k. We'll start matching, blah, blah, blah. And there you go. Well, most people don't know where to start, but then all of a sudden they're being told, this is what you do. You put your money in, we'll match it. Can't
take it out unless you pay this fee.
Here are your investments, and off you run. Well, most people have no concept of how to do that and aren't going to stay on top of it. And maybe they shouldn't be maxing it out. Again, this just comes back to the education, not knowing just basic finance, like what can I spend? What can I invest? What am I saving? And they're often running into a plan, and then the years go on, and then you have years like last year where, and they're not very frequent, but they happen, where everything went down. I mean, the only place to hide last year was cash for people. And most people don't do that when they're investing. They're invested. But, if people were educated, had someone that was advising them, there are years that you can kind of avoid those pitfalls.
Yeah.
But they don't know how to reach out. And now on social media, what I'm learning is it's unfortunate is people think they can't work with an advisor. They don't think they have enough money to
They
work.
can't afford it.
Exactly.
And
Which is not good, which is what I'm trying to change.
Yeah, low key, it's almost like you can't afford not to, because if you do have somebody in your corner at whatever price point, you're going to make more money in the future. What's like the minimum amount that somebody can get involved and just start aligning their future?
I mean, I think it's anything you could start to put away. I mean, it's the one question that I always disliked and hesitated to answer many years when I started in the business. You know, people will ask you, what's your minimum? What's your minimum? And I was just like, to me, that was a non-starter.
Yeah.
That's why I left the institutional world, because in that world, that's the first thing that an advisor will tell a prospect. Well, yeah, it's $5 million. It's $2 million. One, that's not everybody. Two, you know, it's all about building a relationship and trust. And sometimes that takes a lot of time. And at some point, maybe you'll get to that point. So for me, if people are going to reach out to me on social media and ask for help or want to have a discussion about things that they haven't discussed, I'm going to take the conversation.
Yeah.
It doesn't, you know, maybe we'll work together, maybe we won't, but
at least I'll align you in the right way where you can, you know, we can start minimizing the gap. So say, okay, I'm 18. I just graduated high school. I'm not going to college because I don't want to put money into something that I'm going to be in debt later. Unless I'm a doctor or a lawyer or something that you actually need it for. These are my opinions. These are not of Hugh Meyer
or finance. Definitely need to go to school.
But I'm working a job. I have plans of the future and how I want to do this. Maybe I'm doing a little influencer work, whatever. I'm making an extra $500 a month. What are some initial steps I should take to start taking that $500 and maybe putting into something that could be helpful later down the road?
I mean, the first thing is always create a plan for yourself, whether it's a personal finance plan or it's, you know, a 20-year business plan. I mean, I think writing things down, no matter what it is, has become a lost art.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm constantly, you know, if you go to my desk anywhere, I've got sticky pads.
Yeah,
everywhere.
I remember for your videos and stuff too. You got the whiteboard, sticky notes, and everything too. Yeah.
I just think you have to. We're so, you know, we've become so used to the phone and the iPhone and whatever, and not just writing things down. I think it's got to start. It's got to start there with writing things down. I mean, there's a ton. I mean, one of the great parts of technology is there's apps all over the place now that can help track your spending. I'll remember one that's. I'm forgetting right now off the top of my head, but there are many out there you can find that basically help you start kind of creating a budget. There are numerous apps that can help you start, you know, financially planning, like making you think about, you know, where you want to be and how much money you may think you may be earning down the road, and how you can kind of take those small steps over time. But, you know, again, it's always basic. It's like save more than you spend, right?
Yeah.
And that's easy to say, but it's obviously very difficult for most Americans to do because the cost of living is what it is. Obviously, you know, living in cities like LA make it difficult, but, you know, you've seen people recognize that they can't, you know, if they're going to have a life, that, you know, they're going to move to a city somewhere where the cost of living is manageable.
Yeah.
And then, but starting that process of, you know, saving, you know, more than you're earning when you've saved up, you know, maybe is it a year's worth of living expenses? Once you have that put aside, then maybe you start with, you know, you start investing and you start, and if you own, you know, if you're an entrepreneur, that means, you know, starting some kind of a retirement account because, you know, there's tax benefits with that. And that's a whole nother subject to discuss with people who don't, you know, understand kind of how there's a ways to benefit from the tax system. You know, we all hate paying taxes, but it is set up to help you in retirement to basically build wealth over time.
Interesting. Yeah. So, cause even writing stuff down and what I've seen in my life and people around me too, is that if you're not creating a plan, and yes, in entrepreneurship, things can go left, right, you know, you're always prepared for whatever's out there. But if the money's there, you spend it. You know, if you're writing things down and you're saying, okay, I'm going to allocate this much and just put this over here and just going to save up for the year, and you're not going to touch that, then you're just playing with this money over here, and it's a lot easier to manage versus just kind of a free for all, or not having a plan, or, you know, nothing written down or something just in your notes. And so I think that's a huge key to just get things started. Something that I need to do better at as well. And then, you know, recently went to the movie theater and saw a movie called Dumb Money. Have you seen it yet?
I have not.
You probably don't even need to. You probably know exactly what went on, and maybe you know, I'm not sure how exaggerated the film was. But when you talk about investing and you have these apps like Robinhood and stuff like that, is it safe to work in that world? After watching that movie and seeing how things were cheated at the end, kind of just, you start to lose faith in the rules and everything within the investment world.
That's a complex question.
Yeah, I don't even know if that was a question. I was like,
no,
he's like, yeah, I know I didn't see the film.
No, I appreciate that. So there's a few layers to that. And I think we were talking a little off camera about, I think there's two parts to that. The first is what some people that I learned a great deal from you really quickly. You talked earlier about, all this information. The one great thing, one of the best parts about what I do now is what I call the democratization of research, right? The ability now that there are some really, really smart people that have great track records that are now out on their own and they're basically talking through what's happening, right? So people like me I follow them and I can kind of, I hate to use the word dumb it down, but what they're saying is high level. I can bring it down to a place where I can educate other people on, what's going on, what's going on and why, because people want to know why, kind of to what you were just alluding to with what happened with GameStop.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of issues with how it's called Old Wall Street. It's kind of a fin-twit joke that, it's just, it's a crooked, it is a place, it's a nefarious, crooked place where salespeople are trying to make money off of individuals. No question. They want to line their pockets. I worked in that world for 15 years. The opinions that people have of it are deserved. Every day you're hearing a story about this bank did this and this bank did that. They get the slap on the hand and off they go, and they're off doing something else that's probably, needs more attorneys.
That's the best way to put it.
But yet they continue to do it. But people now have kind of, they're smarter. They've caught up to it. There's social media. They understand, maybe I can go do this on my own. You talk about Robinhood. The environment of finance is very complex. It's something where I'm 47. I've been doing this for 25 years, and I'm always learning something new. Just how the game is changing. But in the end of the day, people need a voice. They need someone that's knowledgeable, that's trustworthy, that understands what's going on, and can explain to them what's going on and why. Not be on Instagram or some other platform or TikTok saying they should buy the latest, digital coin and have absolutely zero, time in the market behind them at all. I understand people are very distrusting of it, and I think it's all about reaching. I want to reach as many people as possible, saying yes, there are I want to get people out of a box. There's this everything about at least finance and making money is let's get people like a 401k, for instance, and I'm not going against the 401k. I'm just saying it's all about let's put people in a box where we can charge them a fee. It looks like it's nice and neat, and they're often running. We'll earn our fees, and that's that. And it's way more.
Yeah,
it's way more than that. More and more people they have access to information. They're going to question you more. They're going to be more distrusting. You got to give them. Don't BS with them. Tell them what's happening and why do you think it's happening.
Right. Yeah, because there's a lot of voices out there. I do think the internet is slowly saving the world. It amplifies voices, and then it's just about finding the right voices to listen to. So if we were to work together, or any so financial advisor is that like the main term based on what you do?
There's financial advisor, financial planner, wealth manager. There's a lot of different, I guess, acronyms, if you will, or titles.
Yeah. So for someone like yourself, somebody that would be interested in getting into business or to do what you do? How does one even start in that field? All right, let's take a quick little break from the show to talk about our amazing sponsors, XYKO. XYKO.co is their website, and XYKO, XYKO.go is their social media platforms. But we're so stoked about this partnership. This is their first product. It's this minimalistic design for their wallet. I've had several of these, but this design has been the easiest, like a little lighter flick, boom, right back in your pocket. Minimalistic, modernized, and just everywhere I go, people ask me where the hell I got this from, and it's XYKO, XYKO.co. But what does that mean? The underlying desire to live your life, to make things happen, and that's exactly what we're about at Mastermynd. So we are so stoked to be working with them. So check them out, XYKO.co. Also, Ink Detroit. Ink Detroit make this hat. They make all of our merchandise. They do hats, they do t-shirts, they do hoodies, you name it, they do it. And they work in Detroit, but they ship to all over the nation as well. So please check them out, inkdetroit.com, and Ink Detroit on all social media platforms as well. So if you're a business or you're a brand and you need to get stuff made on a bunch of different kinds of clothing, check them out. They will take care of you, and let them know that Mastermynd sent you. Lastly, before we get back in the show, what do we do at Mastermynd? People see Mastermynd Media like, who the hell, what is this? Is this just a podcast studio? Partially, yes, we do podcasts here at Mastermynd. We're in Los Angeles. This is one of our newest ventures, but social media management, graphic design, logos, pitch decks, you name it. We do a digital production, interviews. Check us out on Mastermynd. That's MASTERMYND media.com. But if you're in Los Angeles and you're looking for a place to do podcasts, yes, we do that. And we're so stoked to be doing podcasts. There's so many cool people in Los Angeles, and the conversations that happen at this table, it's been amazing. So if you're looking for somebody, you're looking for a partner to the digital world, look no further. Please give us a call. We'd love to help you out. That's mastermindmedia.com. And let's get back into the show.
Wow, that's a great question. I mean, I think if it was me giving advice to someone else, I would say you would want to become an intern at a firm like ours, or a firm that's private.
Get close to the sun. That's what Gary Vee says.
I would say stay the hell away from working for a wirehouse firm, which is, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs. Listen, there's probably plenty of great people that work there, but what those firms stand for is, it's crap, for lack of a better word. They're, but people get it. Like I don't have to say this to people who are going to, they already have this kind of distrust of, call it old walls. I call it finance. But I would be wanting, I would say, if you want to, listen, there's a million avenues in finance, but if you wanted to be in wealth management, I think you would want to be an intern at a small boutique firm like ours or something. There's a lot of they call independent, money managers all over the place. Who are independent. They are not connected with a firm. They're not taking direction from that firm. They're not selling what that firm is telling them to sell.
Yeah.
So, that would be...
Yeah, engulf yourself into the world. And then that way you can get a strong understanding of of what it is, if this is right for you. And what would you say someone in that field would need to be great at? Is it like crunching numbers, or like what do you feel like?
You have to be a black and white human being. Be a human being. Yeah. I mean, I think it doesn't matter what work we do. I think people recognize phony. Yeah. They recognize BS. They're on every platform possible that they can figure out who's actually out there trying to build a community and be a resource, which is what I'm doing every day. It's just trying to build this community of people who are, they're out there, they're business owners, they're running their businesses, whatever they're doing, but they don't have the time to look at things that I'm looking at, or what ways that they can make their life. We call it financial freedom, if you will. That's kind of this term that my partner and I have been batting around. We think the word retirement is it's just kind of it's an old word, and frankly, I mean, who's retiring anymore? What does that mean? I mean, does anyone? I don't know anyone who's at 60 or 65 and they're not working anymore.
Yeah. Or if they did retire, then they're like working a side job because they got too bored at home.
Well, exactly. I mean, I just don't think that. So to me, this kind of concept of having financial freedom is seems to ring with people about, and it doesn't matter if you're 35, 45, 55, just being able to do run the life you want to run, have, I always talk about physical and mental wellness. It's like, if we don't have that, what do we don't have anything. We can't function.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's also, the other point is, if you're trying to get in the industry, well, one, you got to learn social media.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing this for 25 years, and I've had to evolve what I've done on social media a bunch of times to figure out what is it, what's my real passion, and how am I gonna get the message to as many people that need my help as possible. Be fresh, be edgy about it, because I think that's kind of, I've always said I got to be edgy. I don't want to be the same financial advisor doesn't pick your platform. I do a lot on LinkedIn now. That just says the same BS, or just is posting something from their firm, or how are you helping somebody there? Like, you're just posting bullshit.
Yeah, you're like checking a box. Like, oh, I did the social media today. And that's what I love when we first started working together in the social media world. And that's when, like, I think when Reels first started, and like you were so like, you were hungry to, okay, how could I communicate my message to the world, and like what's working the best? Okay, I'm down. Let's do it. Here's 5 videos. And like, and that's the type of people we like working with best, because it's not like you're trusting in me what I do, and I'm trusting you and what you do, and coming together, being able to put content out into the world that's going to help people. That's how you grow.
Agreed. Yeah, I think you got to be you have to be flexible. I mean, flexibility in your life, whatever you're doing, is important, I think.
Yeah, and hungry to change and evolve.
Yeah, I mean, I did it recently. I looked in the mirror because I was doing a lot of content on educating people on, and I know we're going to talk about this maybe in a little bit, about Bitcoin and digital assets. People need to understand what they're getting into. It wasn't me out there shilling. It was me trying to say, listen, do you understand this world? Like, and trying to educate people on, all the parts of it, how to get transparency with it, what's going on from the regulatory perspective. Again, it's all about educating. And I think that's what I'm trying to do on social media, is really tap into, financial wellness, just hone in on planning, talk about people I think other people should follow. If it's Morgan Housel, anyone who works with me, I send his book out. He's actually having a new one that's coming out that everyone should get. His first book is Psychology of Money, which everyone should read. It doesn't matter, at what stage of life. Everyone should read that book. It's just it's a phenomenal book, and it's not about wealth management per se. It's psychology of money, like just having that awareness. There's a lot of there's a lot of layers to it. And like I said, anyone who comes to work with me, I send them the copy of the book. If people DM me on LinkedIn, I send them a copy of the book, because it's a fantastic way for people to really learn, get that mentality and psychology in place. It's not about, buying this stock or that stock. It's kind of building a process for your life.
Yeah. And understanding that world, so you can, after you get to that step, it's very similar to like within the world of acting. We start our acting class and they give you a book, but then now you can kind of learn the psychology behind it. And then, now you have like the tool, you're equipped with the tools to then get the new information and build upon that. That's dope. We're going to order that today. I'll have that this week. Appreciate that. And the last question, just about like the business that you're in. So how does a financial advisor, for someone who isn't trading a million or 5 million or putting that into different portfolios, how does somebody, based on a client that is, just, I guess, let's say, dealing with 50,000 for the year and putting that into different things, how do you get paid based on that?
Everything we do is on a fee percentage basis. So we're fee, our firm is fee only advisory. That's a lot of firms now. It's really kind of how the business gets done. But that said, we also will work with people who want, some people want to work on an hourly basis. In some cases, it's more from a financial planning perspective, where they may not have, oodles of money, if you will.
Yeah.
But they need someone to basically kind of look down at everything and see kind of, all right, well, you need a plan, because everything we do is anchored off a plan. Everything we do is like, we want to take whatever assets you have, match them to a liability, very simple.
Yeah.
And that's how we think is gives you the best path for success. Obviously, we have to manage within that and kind of all the twists and turns that the markets give us, but it has to start there. You know, what we talked at the beginning about writing things down. Well, that's kind of writing it down. I mean, it's obviously it's on a computer screen, but it has to start with a plan. The plan has to be the anchor, because you know you need to know, you need your roadmap. Where are you going? How are you going to get there? And my job is to help you all on that journey. And my partners, that's what we're doing, is try to help them on that journey. What does that mean? It can mean a myriad of things.
Yeah.
Along the way.
Yeah, but it definitely having somebody in your corner that's paying attention, that's working on the things that you don't have time to kind of protect yourself in the future. I love that. Well, and you mentioned like the world of digital assets and Bitcoin and NFTs and everything too. So where do we stand with it now? There was so much hype around it initially, very similar to how the web when it first came out back in the day, and everything changed, and everybody was super loud about it, especially with Bitcoin and buying Bitcoin as it was skyrocketing. And then you had the naysayers, oh, it's not going to do it, NFTs is not going to, it's not going to be what you think. And then things do. I don't know if crash would be the right word, but
it did.
Go down, yeah. But however, I still believe in the future of what everything means. It just comes down to, figuring those things out. So where do we stand currently, or even if you want to walk us through what you've seen so far?
Yeah, well, right now, listen, it's the digital asset world. It's alive, and I don't know if I'm going to say alive and well, but it's alive and kicking for sure. I mean, it did crash. When monetary policy in this country changed, meaning basically making everything more expensive, the cost of money. I mean, the fact is that digital assets perform the best when capital is very free flowing.
Yeah.
Right. And now it's not.
Which it was during, based on the printing of money, would you say?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the lifeblood, if you will, of Bitcoin and other digital assets, is when money is being printed at will. It's basically saying, okay, you're devaluing the currency that we use, the dollar, so to speak, making it less valuable. And people are gonna want to get out of those, and they want to find the riskiest assets ever created, which they are. I mean, digital assets are the riskiest assets we've ever seen. Obviously, with risk can become great reward, or the opposite, which is what has happened over the last couple of years, which is people have lost tons of money.
Yeah.
For the reasons that it always, things always happen. The environment changes, people get greedy. Just the markets don't make sense anymore. But there's definitely been a settling out. There's no question. I mean, look, Bitcoin, it's still here.
Yeah.
I mean, Ethereum, still here. Businesses that are building in the digital asset world within venture capital, they're still going.
Yeah.
The good ones have made it. They've lasted. Maybe their business valuations have come down dramatically, which is normal because where they were absurd. But the ones that were creating real businesses for the future, they're still here. I mean, I read about it every day. It's a lot. It's happening. Like, it's just not where it was 2 or 3 years ago, when everybody was there was money everywhere and everyone was investing, and it didn't matter what. Yeah. And a lot of those things didn't make it.
Yeah.
But the big story, or the big thing that's happening now, is what's happening from the government perspective. That's been the government's been in the news, for the last year or two, because people are essentially saying, you have to regulate this, but you have to do it intelligently. And that's the next step of all this, is having some legislation by congressional members, which ironically, it's the only thing you have people on both sides of the aisle that are agreeing on is digital assets, which is, it's kind of funny to me. It'd be nice if they could agree on some other things of significance, helping in the education system in this country, healthcare, but we won't go there. But you have people on both sides of the aisle that understand that there's jobs to be created from all this. There's revenue to the government that's going to be created from all this. There's better lives from all this to live from all this, more efficient. So that's kind of where we are right now, as we're in this waiting game, is will Congress start to create some kind of concrete legislation that says, okay, you're regulating this, the Commodities Exchange Commission may regulate Bitcoin, and the SEC may regulate everything else.
Yeah.
But because the SEC is being, I'll try to be politically correct, stodgy, and this stodginess is coming from the head of the SEC. Ironically, there's people under him that don't agree with his stance, but he's some kind of puppet for who knows who or what. But that's where it is right now. We're kind of like in this waiting game of what is the U.S. government going to do from a regulatory perspective. The big thing now is when's a Bitcoin ETF. That's been the hot button issue right now. Is all of these institutions that have gotten involved, whether it's BlackRock or things like these big financial institutions, they want in. They've got clients that want in, institutions that want in, and people want a Bitcoin ETF.
Yeah.
And the SEC will not approve it, even though they lost a huge court decision about a month ago where basically a high court in the U.S. said, you're wrong. I mean, I'm not going to get into the legalities of it for this, but they basically said, what you're saying doesn't hold water. And that gave people a lot of confidence that kind of we're getting closer to a change.
Yeah.
But the SEC now is basically saying, okay, well, you said that. We're just going to start delaying this one, and which is within their rights. So now they're reacting with this further delay. But I'd say we're in a much better place than we were a year or two ago because we're getting closer to some line in the sand, if you will, where there's going to be oversight. Which we do. We need oversight.
Yeah. We being able to learn from everything from the past to say, okay, this was the wild, wild west, and now we need to restructure things. So when you see the future of that and you see them starting to regulate things, do you believe that we're going to see a world where there is going to be zero cash? We're not going to be using cash at all?
It certainly seems like we're going in that direction, but it's not going to happen overnight. I think there's a lot. There's several, and we talked about this off camera. There's several really big themes that are going on. The themes that my partners and I we talk about, like what are these themes? And I'll name one is deglobalization. I'll explain that. One is decarbonization, which you probably can understand that, and then there's digitalization, which is what we've been talking about, right? Are we going to this age where everything is just going to be electric? I mean, listen,
it's convenient.
It is. It's happening. And you're seeing, listen, the U.S. government, the Fed is got a digital dollar, kind of in the back and in the background. Everyone knows about it, and there's concerns because if the government's going to start sending us dollars electronically, does that mean they're going to have control of our money? And I don't want to get too controversial and get into that, but it's a concern of people. It's like, well, yeah, the technology is great, but who's controlling that technology? And sure as hell, people don't want Uncle Sam controlling. So digitalization, it's here, it's happening, it's going to continue to happen. Things that we're going to be doing are going to change. However, money transfer. There's things that have to change. Think about it. It's ridiculous that banks continue to charge for the transfers of money, that you can't get money to some place instantaneously. Think about
with
that.
3 handshakes that they each take their 3%.
Exactly. It's ridiculous. You still go into a bank and the time it may take for you to wire money to oversee. It's just the whole infrastructure. And it's going to change. It's being forced. So you have digitalization. The first one is deglobalization. So I take everything I'm saying, you have to take it with a grain of salt because these things are going to happen over a long period of time. But post COVID, we have a world that's kind of becoming fractured, right? And the two biggest players are the U.S. and China, and clearly we're not in a good place, right? Everything is changing. China is no longer this country that's selling all this cheap stuff that we took for granted to the rest of the world. So that's a big change that people really are not understanding. Well, what does that mean? We were paying less for things that we buy every day, right? And that's not the same anymore. Now they're having their own problems, and then obviously we have a lot of political and economic issues with China. So that's changing investing right there, and people have to kind of understand, and that's my job to help kind of people through that and guide them through that. But that's a big deal. The world is becoming, I don't want to say the world's siloed, but it's a very different world. Look at Saudi Arabia and the U.S. It used to be we'll call it a good relationship because of oil. And now, now Saudi Arabia is kind of over here doing whatever it's best for them, and they don't care about the U.S. That impacts all of us, right? But people don't understand that. So you're starting to see the world change dramatically kind of in that way. Now, there could be a lot of good that comes out of that.
Sure.
But in the middle of that, there's going to be issues. I mean, it's going to change. So that's a big thing. Then obviously the big issue is going green, right? We've been hearing about it for years. Electric cars, all these things, better for the environment, et cetera, et cetera. And it's all good. It's things that are, again, like digitalization. It's happening. It's going to take time to happen. But the issue is the cost, which people really don't understand. The cost of doing all these things to basically call it go green it's expensive. Like you need resources to make all that happen, and people don't understand that. As much as we all want, cleaner air, access to low cost energy, things that will help. Listen, we all want that, but people don't understand there's a price to this, right? That we're gonna pay for. And I know everyone's like, yeah, let's do this, but again, that has a consequence to how we invest. Like we have to think about that, because the cost of everything is going up because governments want to move into this, no carbon kind of environment, which it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But again, the timeframes that people are setting for a lot of this is completely unrealistic.
Yeah.
Do it in 5 years, do it by 2025. Europe, it's going to be 2030. Those are really difficult timeframes, and that affects all of us. Again, something people are not really thinking a lot about, but that's, our job is to think that through. How does that impact, us as human beings? How's that going to impact how we invest money? Where should we be investing? How do we take advantage of that? These are big issues that, you don't hear. You hear about it, but you're kind of hearing people's opinions.
To understand it and to realize how long it's going to actually take. It's a huge change, and there's going to be some friction, and somebody's got to pay for it. Even going back to what you were saying before, how we handled COVID and how that's going to, how that's impacting. We're seeing that now. You're making this new massive change. What does that look like in the years to follow? That's all really, really interesting stuff. So based on all of that and based on these massive changes, and I think the biggest thing now is seeing, and it's been happening for years, like what's going on in China with with what they're able to do. If you're jaywalking across the street and they are able to facial recognition scan your face and then take the money out of your account and then knock your credit score or what have you. And there's T-shirts in China that some people are wearing to be able to like scramble their face so that you can't see.
China's a scary place.
Yeah. But then also
I should say the government. The CCP it's like you have to differentiate. The people are good people.
Of course,
they're hardworking. Yeah. The evil, if you will, is the government.
Yeah.
The evil is the CCP. That's the people that are, they're crazy. The things that they're doing globally are crazy. I mean, they're basically potentially preparing to invade Taiwan.
Yeah.
Why I don't know, but they're to the point of they're walking a very fine line in China between the policies they're trying to put on their people and people who may one day just decide to say, we're done.
Yeah.
We're not, we're revolting.
And
even just
one.
No,
but it's like
it's a lot of people that.
But that's like just like the trust that you have in something, putting all of your trust into it. Just digital currency, and where things could just theoretically just disappear out of your account or be held against you. I guess the closest thing now is to have a lien on your account or something like that. And, so a future like that where they do have that control and people say, oh, it's America, it's never going to happen. But with how much corruption that there is and a lot of the figuring the stuff out in the government and everything too, and again, being able to talk about this on the internet and people to share their stories and see what's going on. And it's a wild place. And I definitely see people's fear. I'm fearful of what that would look like. And then what do? You stack your walls with cash, but then you can't use cash. And then what do you do? It's just the whole thing.
How would you be able to like effectively financially like forecast if the economy is moving the way it is? It's kind of impossible to keep up with the dollar. It's impossible to keep up with the cost of living. So without having the money to spend on a financial advisor, what would you
Great question.
do like as a household effectively with their money?
It's a great question. I mean, this goes back to what I was talking about earlier, which is, the democratization of research, like for me, being able to work with people that are way smarter than I am, that have done this for a long time. And those are the people I rely upon to answer those questions. Like, where's the economy going? Why is this happening? Why does Tesla go up 10% one day and down 10% the next? I mean, that's, an example, but
yeah.
Like I said, to me, my job is to try to educate people on what's happening and try to keep it, it's not about scaring it, but about keeping at a high level of what's going on. Like, first 6 months of this year, why was the market up? Because, the economy, the U.S. economy was still kind of humming along, and inflation was going down from a year ago. Now we're kind of in this limbo, and we may be in this limbo for the next 6 months to 12 months where, listen, we're back at I go back to the gas pump example. Listen, cost of oil and gas, very expensive again. Mm-hmm. That's going to impact, those things will impact the economy. Like they're impacting it now. Housing market, right? I mean, obviously it's geographical, but most people are not buying homes right now with a mortgage at 8%. So it's definitely a murky, kind of muddy time right now. And then we have, by the way, we have a presidential election next year.
Right. So
which, we won't go there.
Who are you voting for? No, I'm joking.
Well, how do you measure, because families are going to be needing loans more than ever.
Right.
After this year. How is the financial risk going to be measured if the cost of living is going up, but our wages aren't? Like what is that measurement going to look like?
Right. I think, I guess the good news is that most wages are going up. I mean, at least that's what's kind of out there in the mainstream. Like if you look now, every union in their mother, they're all striking for more money.
Yeah.
I mean, the UAW.
If you're lucky enough to be a part of a union,
you're right about that. You're a Detroit guy. You got the three biggest biggest auto union in the country, and they want kind of like crazy wage increase. But listen, they're going to get something as they deserve.
Well, yeah, you got to start.
They're asking for a 40% increase, and that was probably a non-starter. Wow. But you're seeing this, it's happening in Las Vegas, I believe. Same really? Kind of, yeah. So you're starting to see that American workers are, I don't want to use the word revolting because that's strong, but they're fighting back.
They're coming together in numbers.
They're using their right if they're part of unions. And now not everyone is fortunate to have that luxury, if you will. Yeah. But you're seeing more and more, to your question, that people are they realize that, we've not gotten wage increases ever. The government is doing whatever they're doing with the numbers. We know what it costs to live. It's too much. We want more. And they're going to get it. That they're going to get that. And I hope that once they're getting it, that they're, having that, and then that's where they need help is how to plan ahead for that. You've now gotten this wage increase. Where's, how are you living your life? You're going to start. I mean, listen, there's positives and negatives from all this, but I hope that those people are getting help. And like I said, I think it was my post today. It was on LinkedIn. People have to realize that they can reach out. And they don't realize that they can. Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to change is, reach out to people on some platform, at least start a conversation. Maybe they're not great, maybe they are, but know that there are people out there. I'm not the only one that want to try to make a difference so that you don't have that stress no matter where you sit, monetarily speaking.
Yeah, why do you think people don't? Because they don't think they can afford it? Probably, yes. You think they're embarrassed based on their financial situation, that they don't want to necessarily look like, they don't have their shit together?
I mean, I think there's uber wealthy people that don't have their shit together.
Right.
Your finances don't change your scarcity mindset.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to have to use that. I think it's partially they don't feel like they're up to snuff, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think maybe there's some embarrassment. Maybe there's credit problems that they've had to deal with. Maybe they don't think they have, and that's, it goes back to what I'm saying about what's wrong with our, most of my, not all of my industry, but a big part of it is, making it seem like if you don't have X amount of money, then I'm not going to talk to you.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's a complete non-starter. I have people that reach out to me on LinkedIn every day, and I'm not, do I want to see who these people are? Yeah, because sometimes you never know. But if they're going to reach out to me and they want to set up a call, I'm going to take the call.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll work together, maybe we won't. But if I can give them some wisdom or some help and guidance as to kind of where they're going, and if I can help, then I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
That's my job as a fiduciary, is to help these people have a little, better sense of themselves and how they can, move forward and not feel stressed about living.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's got to be the thing. I find myself saying that oftentimes too. If pitching, telling a client what our costs are for their digital management and everything, but I never want money to get in between me helping you. Let's jump on a call for a half hour, an hour, or whatever, and let me guide you so you can be self-sufficient and run with it. Because there's something about that. That's even building a business. I built my business on just giving people free information because I just wanted to help. And if your heart is aligned with it, then everybody wins. What would you say that you're most excited about now moving forward? Like, what are some really great opportunities, or what's exciting in your world in the future?
I always like to manage against. We like to, my friend, we like to manage against the grain, so to speak. Like we don't like consensus. That's the one thing I always tell people. It's like,
I love that.
You're on social media. 1 minute they're going to tell you everything's great. The next minute they're going to tell you we're in a recession. Then they're going to tell you,
we're on the rebound.
It's we call it recency bias, right? You turn on CNBC one day, they're going to say everything is great. The next week they're going to say it's not.
Yeah.
But I think where we're going to really kind of move forward is, teaching people that how money was managed, or how you may have had your money managed for the previous kind of 10 years. I don't think it's going to work very well for the next 10.
Yeah.
Just where that money's going to go, how you can kind of take advantage of those changes. And that may not mean being, owning only NVIDIA and Tesla and Netflix and Google. I mean, those companies will always have their place, but where people get tripped up is how much of your wealth is concentrated in certain places, right? And maybe you need the opposite, or maybe something else is going to behave a lot better going forward than that just did. And I think having that understanding, and that's where I come in to try to explain, where we were, where we are, where we're going, to me, that's an opportunity. But you have to understand what that opportunity set is. And I think having kind of this, not anti-US bias, if you will, but understanding there's other opportunities not here, and being able to take advantage of those is going to be beneficial going forward. And the digital asset world is going to, I don't know what's
going to be figured out. And
it's going to be, I don't know what to say the word catch fire, so to speak, but it's the nature of that world to have these giant, we've already seen it in 10 years, it's almost 15 years now, these giant swings. We're probably a year or two away from another, maybe stratospheric kind of move.
Yeah. Did you get in early on to Bitcoin, or when did you start really believing in it?
I started, democratization of research being on Twitter. Years ago, I befriended a big money manager in North Carolina, and I'd been hearing about it, and I said, Mark, is this like, give me the truth. I mean, is this real? Like, is this a real asset? Can we actually invest in it and not gamble in it? And he's like, yeah. He's like, Hugh, he's like, we're starting, and this was years ago, we're starting to look at building a fund, and, you've got all these the technologies reaching in other places, other, companies are being built. And his whole mantra was, invest in the picks and shovels. I hate to go back historically, but the gold rush, the people that made all the money were the people that were selling the picks and the shovels, and not the people who lost all their money were looking for gold.
Yeah.
But it's the same with digital assets, like those businesses that are building blockchain and are finding their way and finding better technology and ways to help, the end customer, if you will. Those real businesses are going to do very well in the future. And the people that are trying to, make fake money or whatever they're not. They're gonna that world is done.
Yeah.
But there's the opportunity is just it's gonna evolve over time for sure.
Do we know who created Bitcoin yet? Do we know? Like,
It was
isn't
me.
that?
It was me.
It could be. Was it you, Mark?
It wasn't.
I feel
it
like
wasn't.
if all people could be Mark.
I mean, the story, the stories are, they're funny, right? I mean, in the end of the day, I mean, who cares? As long, if you believe in it, secure it, and secure it somewhere. I always tell people who say to me, I have Bitcoin or I have this or that. I'm like, make sure you take it offline. Meaning, for people who don't know, there's hot storage. And maybe people have heard these terms: hot storage, cold storage. Hot storage means you have an online account like Robinhood or Fidelity or whatever, and it's sitting there. It's maybe you sell it one day, buy it the next. It's there. It's in the account. Cold is meaning you've taken it literally off the network. You have a drive, which anyone who I know that I've learned that has it, I'm like, are you praying are you going to hold it? Get it offline. Get a drive.
You're not even because there's digital wallets, right?
It's a digital wallet, literally
wow.
like a thumb drive, like you would use to save documents. Trezor's got one. There's a few others that I recommend, and it's basically there's a whole process you go through, but you're taking it from wherever it is. It's going on here. Store it someplace safe. Make sure, if it's a family that they know all the codes, and because that's the disaster is like you put it offline and you don't write everything down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, safety first, but like you don't want to be in an FTX situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I hope those days are long gone, but make sure you're protecting it if you own it. Do not keep it online, if you will, unless you need the money that day or something like that. Just protect yourself at all times.
Absolutely.
As an entrepreneur, like our income ebbs and flows so much. So how would you say we can mitigate like the risk to banks and just like in our personal life? Because you have to have that balance between investing in your company and investing in your personal life, yourself. So how would you like mitigate that risk to the outside, to the people who give those loans to us?
Wow, great question. I think mitigating that risk is definitely being very conscious of your spending. Like just when in doubt, and this goes for everyone, have an emergency fund, if you will. Make sure you have whatever you can put aside every month. Doesn't matter what it is, but as long as you're doing this, and a lot of people set this up automatically from some money goes into their account, they just got paid. Maybe, you'd like 20%, but maybe it's 5 or 10%, just as long as there's some consistent routine that there is money that you are saving. God forbid, something happens to the business, and that whatever your essential life expenses are, you're be able to basically handle those.
Yeah.
And then once you're, when your business is humming, so to speak, right? Like if you have a consistent revenue stream, then once you have that comfort level, then you could start really thinking about how can I invest my money, make a plan for that. And also if you're an entrepreneur, business owner, it's still the best tax, call it adjusted way to live in this country. Like, you have ability to write off a lot of expenses. Always, this is not tax advice. I'm not a CPA, but for now, being an entrepreneur, being a small business owner in this country is still hugely impactful to building wealth over time, because of the rules of the IRS, what they allow you to do as a business owner. So part of that's also building a retirement account. Those are things that you're building your wealth over time. Make sure those are managed, and you're able to deduct against that. So being an entrepreneur or business owner, while it's extremely risky, it has its benefits. But again, having someone helping you with all that, because there's a lot of layers to that. There's managing your business, and then how does that translate to your own, because you have to live. If you're a business owner, you have employees, they have to live, you have to live. Because God forbid something happens, it's your business. And that's why, I always say, be saving as much as you can from the jump. And then when you're comfortable and you're ready to kind of maybe take a leap and to start investing, setting up a retirement account is a must. For a multitude of reasons.
What are the rules? We'll wrap this up shortly. But what are the rules based on that retirement account if you're putting money in there consistently?
Right. Well, first of all, if you're a business owner, the government continues to make it very advantageous for you to set one up. My business partner, Aaron, is the absolute expert at this, reminding people that right now the government is basically paying you to open up. If you're a business owner and you have employees, they're giving you tax credits for 3 years to open up an account, open up a 401k or retirement plan for your employees. So, to the point, like, that's a big deal. Like, that's probably not going to go on forever, but for now it's there. You can put up to depending on what kind of retirement account, you could put up to certain amounts every year. Those amounts keep going up because of inflation. And it's important that you have that consistency, that you're putting away for yourself, obviously, and your employees, so that everyone is saving. But again, when you're building those plans, you have to educate, and that's where all this gets flushed down the drain. Is people just don't know. I see this every day. I see people's retirement plans before they've maybe had advice from myself, and I see what they're doing, and there's no stream of consciousness with it. There's just, okay, that looks good, I'll do that, I'll put 10% in there and 20% in there, and and in some cases people don't invest it at all.
I used to work at Target long ago, and I remember I got on salary for the first time, and you can open up a 401k. I had no idea how it even functioned. Until someone told me, you can take money out of your 401k, and I'm 20, I'm in my young 20s, and then I take everything out, and no one told me that is a bad idea. Right. No one gives you any kind of knowledge, but you should just open this up.
Right, and it's a huge mistake, because unfortunately you learn that when you do that, you're going to be penalized by the government. You're going to owe money back to the government for doing that, and that's, again, not explained. You don't have to. Going back to what I said, when your example of going to work at Target, well, that's what happens. They go in, people have no education, they throw a bunch of money in, and then God forbid they're laid off, something happened. Well, if you're laid off, you can roll over the money and eventually you can take it out. I'm not saying anyone should do that, but people don't know that you will be penalized for that. Maybe you can't put the max in. You don't have to put the max in, but that's what you're told. Mm-hmm. Put the max in. Don't, they're going to match it. I mean, yeah, is that great? If you can do it, if your life supports you putting that money in this tax deferred account, great. But if you can't, you shouldn't. But people aren't taught that. And then, all you see online now is the amount of 401k loans that are happening everywhere, because, not every part of the economy is doing great. People need access to money, and now they have to go invade their 401ks and then get penalized for it, and they don't know. And then when they go to pay their taxes, and they're like, well, wait, I owe this, and what
by that point it's too late.
And what if you can't pay that? But again, it starts from the beginning, like knowing, having a process, but and that comes back to what we've been saying. People have to know that they can reach out to someone for that help. And that's where the big divide is, or one of the big divides in this country is, like, not everyone thinks they can get access to an advisor. And I know that there are great people out there, that are in other places that are trying to do this. They're trying to, get on social media and, we don't, saying, they don't minimums, they have different ways that they work with clients, whether it's an hourly or something, there's always a way to make it work. If you're independent. Yeah. If you're not inside one of these big old line firms, there's always a way to help other people and figure it out, how you can help them, sustain themselves.
Yeah. I love it, man. Well, yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Hugh Meyer from Highline Wealth Partners. I'm starting to speak at high schools. I have my first one in a while this next month, and talking to them how to use the digital platforms and how to set themselves up for success based on what they want to do in their lives and give them more options. I would love to talk to you about potentially like what we could do to push and get more financial information to these different places. And maybe we can partner up and have you come to some of these as well. Because I think a course in school, of course, but even like a virtual course or something is so necessary.
It is. I would
wild they don't teach
100%. It's actually happening.
Yeah.
Actually, here in California, really quickly, they put through legislation. So shockingly enough, they actually do pass laws in California that actually help people.
Yeah. Okay.
Really?
Where they're gonna make it mandatory in high schools. I think it's 2025 to start having basic finance courses.
Oh.
So. I mean, I don't know what took them till 2025, but our cups are all half full here, so we'll take that as a positive. But
yours is, mine's.
It's something at least people have woken up to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's something I religiously want. It's got to start. I mean, kids at the high school age, they're sponges.
Yeah.
They'll get it. They get it.
They get financial aid in college, have no idea what to do with that.
Right.
I'm so happy about that.
There's a lot, and again, it comes down to someone offering to help and being a resource, and you can change someone's life, dramatically just from helping them understand, how to plan, financially going ahead. They don't have to do it. Don't do it by yourself.
Yeah.
100%. Do not do it by yourself.
Absolutely. Well, tell everybody where they can follow you. Find you on the internet.
I am on LinkedIn every day posting, not just about financial advice, but more about, wellness, kind of behavioral finance, things of that nature. So LinkedIn is where I've spent most of my time. I will probably be moving back into some other platforms like Instagram and Twitter.